Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared, and this is the Questionable Garage. And something, well, actually, a lot of you might actually know this. I love the Toyota Supra. I have always been enamored by it all the way back from my 1982 Toyota Supra, my 89 Supra. I have the right-hand drive twin-turbo R. I worked on them professionally for over a decade, building some of the nicest in the world. And then Toyota brought it back in the Mark V Toyota Supra, and I was really excited. Now, a lot of people didn't necessarily love the BMW crossover. They were looking at it as the previous Supras always were GT cruiser cars, but then they brought out a proper sports car, smaller, more nimble, and, I was on the fence until I saw the See You Later gray manual transmission option, decided I absolutely had to buy one, but I don't have the money to buy one. So I bought this instead. A broken 1998 Toyota 4Runner. It's nowhere near a Supra, but we are gonna get there. I'm really excited about this video series that we're gonna mix in with some of our other projects. Some of you like the Tahoe from way back that I got for free, and you wanted to see some just more inexpensive projects, things that you guys can obtain and do. And I wanted to kind of put together a little series on what you can do and what you need to look for when shopping for your own project cars. If you want to do some fix and flips, if you want to learn how to wrench on a car and make your own first car ready for the road, there's a couple key things you need to look for when you're picking out a project. This is potentially going to be a real big one. But before we get too in-depth with the 4Runner here, I want to go ahead and introduce you guys to the Questionable Garage Questionable Car Buying Tips. Wait, I should have paused there because it sounds like my tips are questionable. They're good. It's good advice. What do you think? We're getting fancy. I have whiteboard and a very expensive easel. I wonder if Viper Industrial ever thought one of their chairs would be used as an easel. But these are, seriously, my 5, topics and things you really need to consider if you want to try to get into some of the fix and flip, get a broken car, or you're just wanting to fix it for yourself to drive. The questionable... Really, GoPro? Now, these are the top 5 topics and things you should consider whenever you're looking for your own project. At least according to me, it has worked very well, and it's how I kind of evaluated that we should start with a 4Runner. Now, I'm not going into too much depth of where you should find or look for your project cars. I find the best place finding broken stuff that you're gonna fix is directly on Facebook Marketplace, and Facebook does a good job of helping you find your broken, dilapidated projects when you keep looking at them. And it's just gonna serve you more and more of them in your marketplace feed. That's a really good tool. You can use Auto Tempest that kind of searches everything, but I find Auto Tempest fantastic for listing and then actually finding what they're worth when they're good. You used to be able to go to Bring a Trailer. That was the whole essence of it, bring a trailer, because it was a broken project. But now it's nothing but overpriced stuff. Let's go through my top 5 topics with some subcategories in each one. Number 1, value. And first, under value, is it being sold for a good price based on just what you see real quick? The pictures, the description of what's wrong with it. Does it kind of seem like, hey, okay, a good one's $3,000, this one's $1,000, it might need an engine that's $800. So you determine all of those factors and decide, is that potentially good value? Now, for this truck, it did look a little rough in some of the pictures, so I was expecting some minor body damage, and it was said that it broke a timing belt. And after that, they had it replaced and it would no longer run. In a Honda or most other manufacturer world, that could mean major engine damage, but I knew this engine was non-interference, so the likelihood of damaging the valves were very small. So I took that as potentially or most likely just needing to be reassembled and an electrical issue diagnosed. And I felt comfortable with the asking price based on what it would sell for in really good shape and what this thing is currently, which is not in good shape, but we're gonna get it there. The next part is, what will it cost to get it working, potentially. Now, obviously you don't own it, but you can start doing some cost analysis. So if this was a Honda that broke a timing belt and you knew it was going to need an engine, you could jump on some websites like car-parts.com where it searches all the junkyards and find out how much a potential just whole new engine would cost. Or call a machine shop, see how much a valve job would potentially cost on a cylinder head because it would have damaged valves. Or if it has a bad transmission, what those would cost. So you can start putting together a formula of, all right, I know I'm gonna have to potentially spend $1,500 in parts. Well, that plus the time it's gonna take and everything together, does it make sense? Could you just buy a good one? That's where you need to kind of do a little bit of figuring. Now, kind of leading directly into 3, even though 2 is here, is knowledge. What do you know about that particular car? I wouldn't recommend getting something that you've never worked on, anything like that, because it's going to be difficult to do all of the estimating and cost analysis. I worked at a Toyota dealership for 5 years, and I know these vehicles very, very well. That's how I knew the timing belt was a non-interference engine. I know that sometimes they have issues with head gaskets, but the description of how it broke didn't make sense. They drove it, parked it, went to start it, and it wouldn't start. The belt had broken from a startup. So knowing some factors about the platform, I'm able to make a good educated guess about that engine and the likelihood that it's gonna fix potentially very easily. You're not gonna know everything about everything. And if you're just starting out, you're not gonna have a lot of experience behind it. So that's where you go to the second part of number 3. Is there a lot of information online available for the car? Are you able to jump on and watch some YouTube videos, find forums, see where it's talked about, find repair manuals so you can start figuring out common problems with a particular platform, and also find a guide to fix it when it's time to go ahead and fix it. You know you're going to be really good if you can find a Chris Fix video on it.
Hey guys, Chris Fix here, and today I'm going to show you how to replace your entire front suspension.
You're going to know every tool you need and you are good to go. That's the main thing, is what do you know about it? What are you able to estimate because of that knowledge? Or can you easily find that information out there? Because if you can't find it, you're gonna have a lot of difficulty in trying to fix it. So now that we kind of went there, let's come back to 2, the repairability of the vehicle. Are you looking at something obscure and rare for whatever reason in a fix and flip market? Can you get the parts? And if you can, are they affordable? Like if you're working on a Mercedes, some of those parts are very, very expensive, but you can get them. And that all kind of ties back into that value aspect. The Toyota 3.4 liter V6 is everywhere. Parts are so easy to get for it. I can probably go to pull apart and pull enough out of the junkyard to build a whole nother 4Runner. You know you're gonna be able to get parts, and because there's so many, they're gonna be affordable. If you're going into weird, obscure classic cars, you know, the MGs or anything imported just because it's cool, doesn't mean it makes sense, because if you can't get parts in a timely fashion at a reasonable price, you're going to invest too much time and not be able to make any return on the backside. Number 4, we're back in order. Marketability. Is it a car that people want? There are some cars out there that are soulless, the general public doesn't want. They exist, they sell incredibly cheap, they're not worth fixing. You have to consider, is the car you're looking at cheap because it's broken, or is it cheap because nobody wants it? Here in the southeastern United States, the 4Runners are incredibly popular. If we're being honest, these 4Runners are popular everywhere. But here in the South, the pre-runner, also out in Arizona and the desert, California, these pre-runners, they're very popular. They're great family movers, they're fun, you can make them look really cool. They're just a great, highly desirable vehicle. Some other things to consider, Subarus in Denver, Pacific Northwest, Northeast, where it's snowy, they're very, very popular. So you can kind of look at what's around you, and is it something somebody wants? A Daewoo. Nothing against Daewoos, but you cannot market it because nobody knows what a Daewoo is. Is it a car people want? And 2, this is gonna seem a little counterintuitive, even coming from me, how much is it gonna cost to make it look nice? If you're wanting to maximize your profits, you need to get it looking as nice as possible for the least amount of money as possible. Look for body damage and figure out, okay, to make this paint look nice, maybe put a new set of wheels on it, what are we gonna have to spend? Because the sad reality is a great looking car that runs okay will always sell for more than a great running car that kind of just looks okay. So it's that visual thing. They're just, whoever's buying this is just meeting you, so they're not going to take, the word. They're going to look at it and make that immediate connection that it looks this good, it must run this good. That's just how buyers work. Number 5, which really is probably the most important thing to consider in your project buying, and that's the worst case scenario. That's, I've got to throw the parachute out, I'm in too deep, this thing can't be saved. Are the parts that you know are good worth as much or potentially a little more than what you're spending on the car? And that's kind of hard to calculate at times because, one, you haven't seen the car yet. You don't know all of its information. But just do a quick, jump on eBay Motors, search interior parts, search things like that and see, okay, I bought this vehicle for $1,200. Am I going to be able to get $1,200 if it's not fixable, or I'm going to spend too much trying to fix it in time and money, and it's just easier to take it apart and sell it? If you take these 5 rules, combine it in together with every purchase that you're making, you're going to put yourself in a really good position for success. Now that I've gone over that, let's walk around and talk about this car just a little bit more, because you probably want to see it, and we're going to go ahead and get started wrenching. So let's get you introduced to our $1,200 Toyota 4Runner. Now, my entire goal is to have a budget cap of $2,000. I basically set aside $2,000 to buy and fix this truck and try to sell it for potential maximum profit. Black is normally a really cool looking 4Runner. You can do some neat things with it. This paint is awful. It is clear coat burnt through everywhere, and the body is a little bit rough. The pictures made it look a little better. Now, if you're ever buying a car, look at it first. I committed to buying it before seeing it in person. I saw it in person and would have liked to have gotten a little bit off. We've had a pretty decent little hit here, which has bowed all of this back just a hair. Looking inside, which we'll show you a little bit, the main structure and the frame rails look good. Paint, definitely not. Needs an antenna mast. If you ever do a Toyota, these are super common. You have to take the motor apart, take the little piece of plastic that drives this out, and then feed a new one in, and your power antenna will work again. The one thing that I am really bummed is someone did some very questionable body work. I can probably get a lot of that Bondo out and actually pull most of this metal back and get that looking a lot better. I failed on doing a proper bodywork assessment. Interior is got a lot of engine parts in it, which is exactly where you want to find them. He had the valve cover off and the front ends apart because they were trying to figure out why it wouldn't run. But overall, the interior is in very good condition. Interior is a very important part of a used car because you spend life in it, and if it's already quite clean, it's going to pay off big time in your favor. We have more car parts, and what I kind of was excited to see was it had the broken timing belt. I was able to look at it, and the best determination that I can make, having done so many, this looks like the factory belt, that it has never been changed. It matches just a very old and tired timing belt. That's a good sign. But we have a complete interior. There's a little bit of problems, but overall, I'm pleased. If you notice, it's got a little squatty stance. The guy just before the belt broke had replaced all of the suspension with lower mileage, almost new shocks and springs, and put a leveling puck in the front. What that does is it just makes your shock absorbers a little bit longer. New parts, the guy cared about it. Those were bonuses as I was looking at buying it, but it feels like it's made it a little squatty, so we'll probably take those off. Has our aluminum wheels that I actually kind of liked on picture. In person, they're a little bit not as good. Coming around, a little bit more body damage. It's all, fixable if we can get it running. Tip for any of you with the Toyota, all of this here, they've been popping the gas door open. There's a little like $5 spring clip that snaps in right here. Just replace it. They bent the lock out and had been using their keys. It's just a little clip. Get it. Doors beat up a fair bit here. But all in all, it's an honest, mostly solid vehicle. Here, let me just wave my hand and the hood will be open. And there we go. We have our engine bay with the incredibly durable 3.4 liter V6 Toyota made, the 5EZ. The previous generation, the 3.0, in the 4Runners had a lot of issues. I've never been a fan of them. They're not fun to work on. They have head gasket issues. To be fair, some 3.4s have head gasket issues, but that's generally a result of overheating and other problems. But as you can tell, this engine is in a partial disassembled state. It is always scary getting into a project that's already taken apart. Thankfully, I'm familiar with them. I'm not as worried about it because I've dealt with these before. We will set up a camera because now we are getting ready to try to make this run. As you can tell, the battery's out of it. I pulled it to try to charge it and it wouldn't take any charge at all, completely dead. So I had to go and get a battery. It's a battery terminal. So we are $1,200 in the truck and $76 in a battery and battery terminals. So hopefully this engine starts pretty good so we have money left for cosmetics. But we will go ahead, set up cameras, and we're first gonna work on just confirming the timing belt was put on correctly, and then we need to go ahead and just get it together enough to try to start it. You don't necessarily, nothing against the guys that were working on it. You can't trust what they've done. You need to get it and test it and see it for yourself. We're just gonna put it together enough to try to start it. All right, so first things first, let's get this thing fully top dead center. Now it actually stopped where the timing marks are really close, but I wanna go ahead and do 2 full rotations so we can get the cams to go all the way up, and I can just see if anything feels weird. Oh, uh-oh. That doesn't feel good. All right, feeling a little better. It's also got a brand new radiator, which is nice. New radiator, new coils. Now, some Toyota engines are known to gel up or sludge. I was kind of curious if maybe that was an issue. I can do one more full rotation, just see. Because the other thing, this thing's been apart a long time. I need to go back kind of simple in the sense that the cylinders at this point may be slightly rusty. So I'm gonna get some water displacer and we're gonna lube those 4 open cylinders. So going back and leaning on knowledge, I'm trying to think. I've had 1 or 2 with flex plate issues. It is not a common thing. Like I said, these are pretty just robust engines. They have a few quirks. Well, the other fun part is before I put plugs back in it, I'm definitely gonna wanna run the starter for a bit to push this air out so we don't, or fluid out so we don't hydrolock it. All right, so 180 out, gets a little snug. So it's happening at the same point in the cylinder's rotation. Watching my cam, I can see the mark when it's 180 degrees apart is when we kind of get the clunkiness. So, slip. It made it in the same spot again. Well, let's spin it around, make sure the timing is right. Then we will hook up a battery and just try spinning the motor over. I did notice one thing. This thing has decided to add some oil leaks to the ground, which is kind of nice, just make a big old pool. Slightly alarming, considering it's not running and it's marking its territory. So it's just a cool little crimper for battery cables. You can get it just about everywhere. Our goal here is by hand. There's a few little spots that feel kind of crunchy as we're turning it, but I'm not 100% afraid of it yet. And again, that goes back to the fact that
This has had 4 plugs out of it for a while. There's moisture and condensation, so we might be fighting a little bit of a rust ring on the cylinder that will clean up. 1, with it running, and 2, with just a little bit of lubricant down in there, like what we were doing. I'm wondering, this thing's got me curious. So if you guys are shopping for a project car to flip, what do you think you're gonna try to find? What has got you excited? Let me know. And what expensive car are you gonna try to turn it into? I guess the car I'm trying to turn mine into isn't that outrageous expensive, but I don't know. $60,000 is a lot of money, even to a quote-unquote YouTuber. Believe it or not, we don't all just make a ton of money. All right, let's get the battery, then we'll pick you back up. All right, so I moved you guys back because if we're cranking this, all of the fluid that was just in those cylinders that I sprayed in it should hopefully come spraying out. We got the GoPro up close. Now, I do not want to turn this over by the key just yet. I don't want it to try to fire the coils or anything because it's all disconnected. So the easiest way is to find your starter relay and bypass that. So I've got these real cool relays with little on-off switches. And Toyota's real nice. 1, they label starter, and 2, almost every Toyota, come on, has a purple starter relay. Ugh. All right, so we got that loose. We're gonna install my bypass. Let's connect our negative. That light flash reminds me of a port-installed security system, the Toyota RS2000, and if it has that and they didn't unlock the doors just right, it won't start. There's a possibility everything's okay and it's just in security mode. Maybe. So let's try to spin it by the starter. So on. All right. It's turning over good. I'm not seeing, and it maybe just has pushed the WD out or drained it. I can definitely smell it, but there's 2 spark plugs in, 4 that are out, and we're getting a gallop. I can hear it making compression. That's a good sign. Let's cover each hole just to feel some compression. Uh-oh. There we go. That's got compression. It was pulling my finger in. Yes. This thing has compression. We are going to go ahead, time lapse, get spark plugs on it, get a valve cover on it, and get the lower timing assembly together. Because I think it's going to start. Like it has to be a security system. It has to be. I hope. I believe we have it all together enough that it should start. We've got our cam sensor and crank sensors plugged in, the lower assembly together, all of our plugs and coils back in, and I'm just gonna go ahead and try the unlock lock, assuming there's a security system possibly acting up. Check engine light is on, which means our computer is turning on. It's trying. It says it has no gas. Is that our problem? Wait a second. Really? Fuel gauge says empty, but all I did was touch the accelerator some. That's just the oil on the exhaust manifold. Are we really? No way. No way. All right, I don't want to run it too long with no coolant, but does it go in gear? Oh, someone really short was in it. Reverse? Holy cow. All right, one more time. All right, fuel gauge isn't working, so it might actually just be empty. That's a starter contact. All right, I think this thing deserves, one, for me to go ahead and clear the shop of smoke, but it runs. So we're gonna get it the rest of the way together to actually run it a little bit longer, and I'm gonna get some gas for it. That's a fairly big win, that it starts when it couldn't start apparently. The doors are open, my arms are kind of clean, because we are done wrenching and we're ready to try driving this around the parking lot to just kind of see the rest of the mechanical condition. I honestly think it was all in that security system. When I dropped that battery on and those lights flashed, locking and unlocking the key in the door fixes everything. It's pretty cool. We are not 100% assembled yet in the sense that we don't have all the new parts. For a split boot, I used electrical tape. Some people run that permanently. I will probably get a new boot if this thing proves worth putting the money. Still needs a new set of valve cover gaskets and then just everything cleaned up. A proper battery tray, because that stuff, that doesn't work. We got a rag to cover it up right now. There's a little bit of wiring that will need to eventually get fixed up, but we can come around here, reach in, reach under, and boom, right up. Now, I was running it for a little bit, and I just did discover one potential problem that we'll have to deal with in the next episode if this thing can actually drive. I don't know if that thermostat's opening. When I was adding just distilled water for right now, again, because we might have to tear it back down. We don't want to put anything expensive on it yet. The bottom hose never really got hot. We're getting nice hot air out of the interior heater, and the top hose is hot, and I can see a little bit of flow, but we're not seeing a lot of flow. So it's very possible that we're dealing with a stuck thermostat. It has to get pulled off and reinstalled for a water pump. So we'll have to pay attention to that. It did not overheat while I had it idling, but idling, I mean, just listen to it. It's nice and smooth. The smoke is clearing up. The spiders are falling off of it. The ants that are down there are getting irritated and slowly moving out, but I mean, it just wants to run. We already did the reverse test. That's working good. Oh, those brakes are, they're a little grabby. These also have problems with rear axle seals leaking. And if that's the case, you get really grabby rear drums before they quit working altogether. Power steering is really nice. That vent's, you know, it's had better days. Oh, hey, wipers wipe and squirts. Right turn signal, left turn signal. It's starting to get cool. We'll give it a chance to do a little bit more. That windshield's cracked pretty heavily. But man, it's working. The car is moving. I'm trying to like look at you guys while you're looking at yourself and me. It's not quite interdimensional, but it's kind of tricky. Knock on wood grain. We might be in an okay spot with this thing. 222,000 miles, 206. I mean, other than low fuel, it's doing things. Away we go. Hey, it's got enough go to spin some tires. Those are some very aggressive brakes. Now I got brake warning. I wonder if there's a fluid leak or if it did look a little low in the reservoir, so that might just be low brake fluid. Again, we're just trying to make sure it runs. I'm not gonna say it's quick. It feels like a 3.4. Still nothing alarming there. Yeah, I mean, it's your traditional 3.4. Not a whole lot there to write home about, but a little champion of a truck. All right, I'm going to do a little bit more off camera, just kind of see if anything else comes up. AC, it's blowing cold air out of the AC. We might have a decent foundation. Might. We're not out of the woods. Option 5 is still on the table, but because of the knowledge that I have of the platform and just kind of being careful, doing a little bit of research, talking to the guy I was buying it from, I think we made a good choice. Questionable choice to always try to buy unknown projects, but questionable doesn't mean dumb. We were educated in that choice and it maybe works out.
Like I was saying, in the 5 kind of key rules and things to look for when you're making questionable car choices is knowledge. Knowing these vehicles, I knew the likelihood of that engine being bad was so small, and it had to just be something so simple. The guy's car at the time ago broke. It was the original one. They're gonna break. They're not lifetime parts. So startup is hard. We first started to crank this thing over and it felt tight, but I remembered, I panicked for half a second. And I was like, no, this thing hasn't had plugs in it. There's probably a small rust ring. So we did a little WD-40 and we've got that back. We've put the thing fully together and it's running and driving great. Mechanically, it seems all there. The AC is nice and ice cold. We're holding a good temperature. Like, it's good running. So we are in a pretty good spot with this, where we know mechanically it's there. We've got a truck that is working. So that's always part 1 of doing a flip. You need to have it running and working. We've got that. So we were ending the episode either on a high or low. The thing started or it didn't, and I was looking at option 5. But next episode, we're gonna get this thing on the lift, give it a complete front to back inspection. What is wrong with it? Are there brake problems? What are we gonna have to spend money on so we can then decide how nice we're gonna try to make it? And I'm gonna talk you through that kind of thought process and decision making process, and maybe we'll research the market a little bit and see what 4Runners are currently selling for, so we know, do we make it real pretty or do we just make it run good and just kind of buff it up a little bit? We're $76 into the $1,200 truck. That leaves us with $724 to get it where we want it to be to sell. I'm incredibly excited. I really hope you guys are enjoying this process of kind of learning a little bit. You can get a car, you can get started on it. Don't be afraid to give it a try. I'm excited. I hope you guys are learning and are enjoying this process. I'm gonna go ahead and spray the mud off of it before I pull it back in the shop. So next time when we pick it up, we're not just draining mud on ourselves. As always, I really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me while I get to do these fun things and take big gambles that sometimes pay off. I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices. And when it comes to buying questionable cars, follow the 5 rules of questionable car purchasing, and you're gonna make it out just fine. We'll see ya.